My name is Marco. I'm part of 5HT Digital Hub, part of the Digital Hub initiative by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, and I'm happy to moderate and navigate through this session. So for our audience, it's an interactive session, so after 10 minutes, you can also switch on your camera, turn on your mic, and then you can ask questions to Bengt and Alexander. So I'm happy to have Alexander Schlepfer from Swisscom Ventures here today, and also Bengt Steinbrich from LH Maker. And I would say to kick off the conversation, maybe Alex, you will give us a short intro. What is Swisscom actually doing? Some more background information about yourself as well would be highly appreciated.
Sure. So Swisscom is Switzerland's leading telco. But what's important, Swisscom is not just a telco, similar to what Tim was talking about, Deutsche. Swisscom is also a large IT solutions integrator. And so again, in the Swiss market, we're number one ahead of IBM, delivering a lot of enterprise IT solutions, obviously in Switzerland to the financial services industry, but also to the healthcare and to many multinationals. We have about 3,000 enterprise customers and over 100,000 SME customers that we're serving with IT service, so not just connectivity. Myself, I'm from the ventures team, so the part of Swisscom that invests in startups. We are sort of a early and growth stage investor, typically Series A, Series B, tickets of $2 to $10 million in verticals, obviously the telco technology stack, then cloud enterprise applications. And then we have a deep tech sort of niche where we invest in robotics, in industrial topics, in AR, VR, and so forth. And I joined Swisscom 5 years ago as partner before I co-founded a venture fund in Paris, Aster Capital, where I also made investments in Israel. So I've been quite often to Israel, to board meetings on Sundays and other fun stuff.
Okay, thanks, Alexander. And now you talked about investing in startups. Now I would like to hand over to Bengt and quickly about the LH Maker, because I think it's a slightly different model, and therefore I'm very curious to hear about more.
Yeah, good morning, Marco, and good morning, Alex. I'm excited to represent here the multi-billion-dollar construction material industry to you. So, I mean, one of the key global trends which has changed the lives of billions in the last decades has been urbanization. And this is still going on with another 2 billion people expected to move into urban areas in the next 20 years. And you have to keep in mind that 60% of the infrastructure which is needed for that has not been built yet. So what we need to do is actually we build the city the size of New York every month. So now in March, we're still building a city of the size of New York, and this every month and so on. And now combine that with climate change, and then you realize that we will need to build greener, smarter, and in the end also for all. So a more inclusive way. I'm working for LafargeHolcim, which is the world's largest producer of cement. And we have established the LH Startup Maker, which is our venture client model, our venture client vehicle, where we want to leverage innovative technologies from startups and test them in our business environment. So we want to become an early customer. And in the last 2 years, since we have launched the LH Startup Maker, we have collaborated roughly with 100 startups on real-life proof of concepts where we became a customer and we tested their solution in our operations across the world.
Okay, great. Thanks for this introduction. Now I'm curious if you have Israeli startups would like to move to the DACH region. They often struggle with identifying the right contacts within a corporate. So maybe Alex, any advice to a startup from outside the DACH region to approach a corporate and find and identify the relevant contacts?
I think it's important that you find first a person that's prepared to sort of carry your interest into the organization. That can be a ventures group, but that can also be corporate innovation people. However, people like me in the ventures team, I don't also not know all the 11,000 employees of Swisscom. So if I then need to get to the specialist, that might be, in the business, for example, that might be the real person of interest for you. That's taking me time as well. And so, I mean, one element is don't think, corporates are just sitting on information and not sharing. It just takes a bit of time in corporates to navigate, even for insiders like Bengt and myself, to navigate these large organizations and find people to who are then ultimately interested in the topic that you're proposing. I always make jokes about the corporate innovation people, because often they are what shall I say, they are isolated as we also are in the ventures group. But I have to say many corporates have in the last years improved a lot, in the sense that they have established, like we in Swisscom, a network of people that we can talk to directly, who are the experts on a select amount of topics. So we have in Swisscom a network of 20 people with whom we are in monthly contact, at least, just exchanging new ideas, new startups we have looked at, and pointing new ideas to each other. So patience, and find one person and then help him dig into the organization. That's my 5 cents here.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Yeah, we often are confronted with this immunity layer of innovation teams, but really digging into these business experts. Maybe Bengt, regarding a first meeting. So if you're a startup from outside DACH region, if you're a startup from Israel, and you have scheduled a first meeting with a DACH corporate, any advice, recommendation, how to act, how to prepare themselves?
I think in the end, for all of us, time is money, right? And we would like to solve some of our pain points. So I think it helps a lot if both sides can come somehow prepared with kind of what is the challenge that we would like to solve, right? So I think what we work on very closely is that we say, hey, we focus on business pain points which the operating teams currently have, and we try to solve and address them. And when we work together with a startup, we make sure that the startup is well briefed around the circumstances, what is really the topic which needs to be resolved, how can potentially their technology address that topic. And that's also what we expect from them, that they show us, look, how will they apply it? How will it work for us? What is in it for us? How will be kind of a working relationship look like with a startup? And what can we expect also for an ongoing collaboration for the future, for a couple of years? So I think we, through the Startup Maker, we kind of facilitate that. In other cases, I would recommend make sure that you have business people on the table when you present your solution. Try to understand really what are the problems that they try to address, and maybe prepare that in advance. And then you have a good discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. In this context, one of the best practices I've seen is really that the startup prepares a business case, with data that you need to collect from the corporate in advance, but that you can really show the impact. Obviously, in a hypothetical modeled case, but you can show the impact of your product on the corporate's operation. In some cases, you might have similar customers already, another telco or another cement manufacturer, or construction material provider. And in some cases, you need to guess a bit. But again, if you have a person to whom you're talking in that corporate, you can also ask him for some, basic information that will help you build your business case. But that is extremely powerful if you can in your presentation in the first 5 or 10 minutes already show, look, our product has this impact on your operations, and then obviously you will get challenged on that, but you get into a discussion, and that's what you want ultimately.
Okay, great. So preparation is key. Dear startups, understand the corporate and be prepared, not just using the same slide deck you've used for all the other customers, but be very specific and very precise. And one thing before I would like to open the discussion to the fellow startups here is the cultural aspect we often be confronted with. So when it comes to the working mood, any cultural barrier a startup from outside the DACH region, from Israel, for example, might face when it comes to a collaboration and it comes to work together with a corporate from the DACH region. Any barrier you really see and you think, okay, there we need to highlight and address this? Bengt, maybe you'll start.
Yeah, I mean, you might encounter a lot of very traditional companies which long-lasting history and so on, and obviously there the working style is often a very different one than in a startup. So you will be probably confronted to some waterfall planning and kind of concerns on how we can now test something, or what does that mean for our organization. And my recommendation there would be to see, can you somehow do a pilot on your solution, which you do in a short period of time, something like 2 to 4 months, rather than having long discussions. Okay, what is now let's do a feasibility study first, and what might that mean for the organization in 2 years, 3 years? Let's rather just test what you have as a solution, and then afterwards look how you continue to work together.
Alex, any further advice?
Maybe on the cultural side, I mean, lots of Israeli companies obviously are frequently in contact with our American colleagues, and the US is a different, the way you present yourself in the US is different than the way you present yourself in Europe. So in the US, obviously you need to fire full force with all your credentials, what you've done in the military, what your degrees you've taken, the number of startups you have already founded previously, and so on. So that's a great story, and in Europe, don't hide that story. But maybe in Europe, we're a bit humbler, and people who are just a bit too, what shall I say, a bit too aggressive on showing off a bit too much, we don't trust them so easily. So it helps if you even show all your credentials you have, but with a little self-depreciating humor, you can also take the edge out of that and make the whole thing a bit more human. So that's a cultural difference, but I do see that often, not just Israeli startups, also US startups coming to Europe. People, if the story is just too good to be true, then people don't trust them.
Okay, thanks, Alex. I think this is very important to highlight when you come from Israel and would like to expand to foreign markets. The US and Europe are two different things, and not oversell yourself is very important when interacting with the DACH region. So now I would like to open the session to our attendees. So if you have any questions, please turn on your mic or your camera as well and ask Bengt and Alex. So feel free just to ask any questions you would like to ask them. If not, maybe I also received actually a question yesterday evening from a startup from Israel, and she as a co-founder asked me, is there a need for me as a startup from Israel to be physically present in the DACH region in Germany, for example, to do business there? Or can I first do it more on a fly-in, fly-off, or more on a virtual space? Any experience so far from you, Bengt or Alex?
I think there is no, in our case, there is no virtual presence needed. We have been in the last 2 years working with 2 or 3 very interesting Israeli startups, and kind of we first brought them in the organization through our head office in Switzerland, but then in the end they have been working with business in Latin America in the one case, and in the other case with North America, and that went well with flying in or through virtual sessions. So.
Okay, Alex, your experiences?
Yeah, I would say the same, absolutely. I mean, also obviously we are more in the software side, so we have an Israeli investment, Fireblocks, that does quite a lot of business in Switzerland. And Michael Schauloff, he's flying in and flying out. Just make sure you don't stay more than 180 days, because then you become tax liable, of course. But you know, on short trips, there's no issue. Even delivering whatever you contract or so, that you can do.
Okay, great. So another key takeaway: no physical presence is needed. We can also do it virtually or on a short trip base. Any questions from the audience? So now it's your chance to ask Bengt and Alexander for any advice, for any experience or insights.
I mean, this must be a technical glitch. Israelis are not famous for being shy, so I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe to add on your point before, as long as nobody's jumping in, I must say we had a very exciting and super working relationship with this one Israeli company, which went then together with us to Brazil to get to know kind of the business team there. They were working with the local sales rep team to develop their a tool, a solution for the salespeople. And I think in that case, then it makes a lot of sense to connect locally and to exchange, to hear from the sales rep, to see how they are working in their daily lives. So these are then things which work less good virtually. But I must say it was also a super good cultural experience to work together in this kind of Israeli, Brazilian, Swiss team on this project. It was very inspiring.
Okay, so we have a success story from Bengt. Do we have I would say, a lessons learned from Alexander when working with a startup and somehow it didn't really work out? You received some or took away some lessons learned, but there was some barriers throughout such a project or collaboration.
I don't. You know, it doesn't come to my mind sort of a negative. I was in one case, I was more embarrassed by our own people asking so much from the startup. Yeah, in one instance, we were negotiating for a POC. It was a drone defense solution here in Switzerland that we were piloting, and the business developer from the line that was looking to deploy the solution here in Switzerland, he was just kept asking for more and more and for lower prices and so on. And I myself, I felt embarrassed about that. Obviously, the startup, they accepted almost everything. Again, my recommendation there: don't accept everything. If you see that a corporate has really engaged with you, you can push back a little. You know, once a corporate starts deploying resources into a project, the main objective is to get this project done. So then you're locked in with them. You don't necessarily need to accept everything from a corporate is asking. You know, it makes sense to sometimes just tell them, yeah, sorry, that's we can't give this free of charge, and negotiate a fair price for it.
Okay, thanks, Alex. I think this is also very valuable. Yeah, don't follow any negotiation path of a corporate, but also say, okay, stop. This is the thing we're in. Maybe Bengt, as a last closing remark, any recommendation in general for startups from Israel moving and coming to Germany, Switzerland, and Austria to do business?
Yeah, I think as we talked about at the beginning, let's try to demonstrate your value proposition very quickly to the point to solve the company's pain point, and then let's try to test that together with the business in a real life pilot project. Because there, both of you will learn a lot. You will learn a lot about how the organization works. You will connect better in the organization. And if this is successful, this is usually a very good entry step into a large organization to keep working on.
Okay, great, perfect. Then last chance for startups in the audience. If you have any questions, maybe a remark or comment, or you would like to receive any advice or insights from Bengt or Alexander, this is your last chance to ask any questions. We still have 16 people in the room, so please don't be too shy.
Well, we're looking forward to receive all their value propositions to resolve the sustainability challenge of the construction industry, obviously.
Yeah. Probably everyone is already drafting their new pitch decks, very specific on either LH, Maker, or on the Swisscom case. So then I would say, if there are no further comments, Bengt or Alexander from your end, then I would say, first of all, thanks for being part of this session. Also, the audience, thanks for listening to our experts here. If you have any further questions or would like to engage with either Bengt or Alexander, please reach out to them. I'm sure they are very open to discuss a potential collaboration with you guys. And I think with having Bengt or Alexander, they definitely will help in navigating you through their big corporate ships and will be a solid and valuable partner for you guys.
Great, thanks a lot for good moderation, Marco, and thanks, it was a pleasure meeting you here.
Pleasure on my side, and thanks also to both of you.
Okay, thanks, Bengt, thanks, Alexander. See you soon and stay healthy.
Bye, goodbye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.